What's up, guys? Sumner from landinvestor.co. We've got a very exciting video today, and I apologize for being MIA for so long. I'm back in the office, back in Las Vegas after months and months of traveling. And today what we're going to be talking about is how to make 10K in the next 90 days or less with the easiest real estate strategy there is out there. This is the same strategy that I've taught to hundreds of other land investors. We've got folks that are making an extra 100 grand a year on the side, all the way up to folks running this as a full-time business doing 7 figures plus a year, right? Same exact strategy I'm going to teach you here today. And so buckle up, get ready. It's going to be a fun one. I'll put some resources for you guys down below in the chat. As you guys know, our mastermind is coming up October 28th and 29th in Las Vegas of this year. About 75% of the way sold out. Tickets are only $299. We've got the best lineup of guest speakers coming. It's going to be off the chain, frankly. Probably the best $300 you could spend in your land business now, maybe ever, right? You're going to meet the team, the Leah coaches. You're going to meet some of the biggest names in land. You get a network. It's going to be really fun. All right. So today we're kicking it with a different style. We're kicking it whiteboard style. Okay. So I'm going to break down the exact step-by-step process that you need to go take to make 10 grand in the next 90 days with this real estate strategy. Okay. I've had many members of Leah make $250,000 in their first 90 days. We've had folks make 100,000 in their first 90 days. So 10K is pretty dang conservative, but you don't really have the support of a coaching program. So what I'm going to give you here will get the job done, but it's probably not going to get you to the $250,000 plus mark in 90 days. I can guarantee you go make 10K with this strategy and give it away all for free. Go get your first deal, your second deal, and then you join Leah, right? I want to give you guys free game, get some cash in your pocket, and then we can work together. I got an email last week from a gentleman that says, Sumner, I've watched every single YouTube video you've put out in the last 3 months, and I just made $25,000 from one deal, right? But you don't have to be inside Leah to make money. I've given away the farm. You go inside Leah to get your hand held, to have coaching, to have accountability, and to really have the information sequenced in a way that's logical for every step of your journey. But frankly, the stuff that we give away here on YouTube is good enough to get you started. Now, there's a few tools you guys are going to need, okay? We're going to talk about those. I try to keep this as lean as mean as possible, right? If you're trying to make 10K in 90 days, you're on a budget. There's no way around it. So we're going to work within that budget. I'm going to give you guys some free resources down below, some free tools for you guys to use. And there's going to be some stuff that we have to pay for on the marketing side. I've got discounts for that too. So we're going to try to give away as much as we possibly can for free to get you into the game. Because what I see is every single week, at least every month, most weeks, people get on our calls with our sales team and say, hey, I went through so-and-so's program. I'm in the whole 25 grand, 50 grand. We talked to a guy recently that was in the whole $100,000 because people are out there executing on strategies that don't work. And so I'm going to give it away for free. You're going to go make some money with this strategy, and then you can decide who you want to work with, right? That's my belief. Go make people money, and things will start to kind of flesh out what direction they should go in. There's too much goddamn misinformation in this industry. This business is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And the fact that people are propagating nonsense, people are in the whole multiple 5 figures is insane. And we've had many folks like this join Leah that we've gotten back on the track and back at rocking and rolling. Now, I might be saying something cool. I'm on a budget. What the heck do I do if I get a deal? Like how am I going to fund that? I don't have the money for that. Good news, email me, sumner@landinvestor.co. I've opened myself up to supporting you guys on some of these deals. Partner on a deal today. Land investor will probably make 40 to 60 grand on it. A partner on a deal last week. Land investor will probably make 100 grand on it. A partner on a deal earlier that week. This guy will probably make, I don't know, 10 grand. I mean, a lot of these deals, you don't even have to bring the money to the table. You need to bring the money to execute on the marketing. You got to have the tools. And someone like me will hold your hand through that process and provide funding so long as it's a deal. But even if it isn't, I'll still kind of tell you, hey, this is why it isn't a deal. And there's going to be some powerful takeaways there. So enough blabbering for me. I hope you guys can see this. If you guys can't while I'm writing this down, just let me know in the comments down below. So we're going to go through a step-by-step process. So if you can't see it, just let me know. Give me 1 second here. I want to make sure this pen works. All right. Up there too, you guys will see landinvestor.co/apply. If you guys want to apply for Leah, you can go over to that link. So let's go through the step-by-step process. This is the very first thing you guys need to do, okay? And you guys can do this while we're on this call. I need you to go over to Redfin, okay? Go over to redfin.com. This is going to be essentially the jumping off point that we're going to use for finding markets that we want to work in. And frankly, you can use Redfin and LandWatch. They both interrelate together. We like using Redfin as a way to select markets because Redfin allows us to toggle the data, allows us to download the data. They have a really good mapping feature on there. And so what we're going to use this for is to go and find markets that fit within our wheelhouse. If you know anything that we talk about, we're obsessed with market selection, right? Because data, mail costs the same. The thing that differentiates our results is the quality of that mail and also the markets we decide to participate in, right? And so market selection is super important. I don't want you just mailing willy-nilly any old county out there. And frankly, if you send me a deal in a crappy county, I'm probably going to say no. You've got to select the right markets, okay? Markets that expose you to the right kind of deals and markets that have strong demand. Because the truth is, land is very difficult to move. You can buy a piece of land and sit on it for years. And go on Zillow, you'll see properties that have been up there for eons, right? Before the dinosaurs were roaming. So it's important that we go and find markets that have strong demand. Now, we talk about something called sell-through rates, okay? This is a Leah special. We talk about, hey, there's 10 properties that sold last month. There's 100 properties actively listed. That means that every month there's a 10% sell-through rate, okay? Just to give you quick numbers here, anything over 15%, it's a great market. So 100 properties listed, 15 selling every month. That means that, you know, over 100% of the turnover, 100% of the listings are going to turn over every year, right? And obviously you'll find markets that are way better than that. But as a starting point, let's look for stuff holistically, not just for one size range, holistically for the whole county, but just for land is turning over at least 15% of its inventory. What that's going to help us do is it's going to help us not go buy properties that people don't want, right? We want to work in markets where people are raising their hand and saying, we want land. And we're going to come bring in the best price listing with the best marketing. And we're going to be in a market where, like, the wind is in our sails. People actually want the land. This is something that took me 3.5 years to learn. Right? I used to do what most land investors do. I would go copy other land investors, right? I would go see where other people are working and say, okay, I'm going to work in Costilla County, or I'm going to go work in Mojave County. It's a really hard business to run, right? It might work if you're selling podunk, small little owner finance properties. But the truth is, if you want to go after deals that net you 40, 50, 100, 200K per deal, you need to be in markets where there's buyers for those kinds of properties, okay? So you go over to Redfin, 15% sell-through rate. And for inventory, right, for how much supply there is, I would say 25 to 250 properties in supply. We don't want too little. If we have too little, the data set's going to be really inaccurate, right? If you have one property or two properties and one sells, 50% sell-through rate, but is it really a 50% sell-through rate? No. The data set's just too small. So I'd say at least 25 properties in inventory and no more than a couple hundred, call it 250. Right? As you start seeing markets that have 500, 1,000, 4,000, 5,000, even if it's a strong market with demands, day one, your listing is lost in the shuffle, right? So much of what we do in this business is not just about buying the deal at the right price. It's important, and it's probably more important than marketing in terms of how we dispo the deal, but you can't discount marketing. And marketing looks like, can we get the most eyes to our listing? And can we have such an enticing presentation that we can convert those eyes at the highest percentage? I see deals all the time from land investors that are priced right, that are in the right market, but are posted so poorly they're getting no traction, right? In fact, we just had this with the Leah member. I won't name names. She's improving it right now. Great property, great market, bought it at an amazing price, listed at a really good price, and she's getting no traction on it. She sends it to me. She had a realtor working on it. And the realtor takes blurry iPhone photos of bushes. Every photo's of a bush. Like, what? Dude, a buyer would never know what they're looking at. A buyer's never going to go take the time to drive out to a property that's advertised as a bush. It just doesn't matter how well it's marketed or how well it's priced. Marketing is going to be important. So if you're in a market where there's so much saturation, you just get lost, right? We can't get lost in the shuffle. So Redfin is what we're going to use to select markets, okay? Select markets. Now, here's a little free game for you, okay? I know this is really hard for people to conceptualize before they've started their business, but I'll put you on some free game that I think is really helpful. Choose what kind of land business you want to run now, okay? The more specific you can be with the business that you want to run, the easier our decision-making is going to be. You see, you'll get caught in paralysis analysis because there's so many damn options out there for, I could work in infill lots, I could work in rural recreational in this market or that market, I could subdivide, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this. Just pick one thing and stick with it. Okay. So, for example, if you look at my business, most of the deals we do are probably 10 to 40 acres. It's kind of our sweet spot, right? If I go do an 80-20 analysis on our sales, that's probably what brings home the most money for us. And we like properties that are 3 to 5 hours outside of a major metro. Okay. So that's just the stuff that makes us the money. That's the stuff that we like. Doesn't mean it's the only strategy. We've got other Leah members that do totally different things that make lots of money too. But you want to get clear on the kind of business model you're gonna run. Because if we can create limitations, that's going to make the market selection process that much easier. Because if you want to have a business like me, you're probably not going to go look in Los Angeles for land. Right? It's probably not going to make much sense. So we can start whittling down our search that way. One thing you guys can use initially is land.com. You can go to land.com and say, okay, cool, I know what kind of business I want to run. I want like 10 acres to 20 acres. I want to be in, I don't know, Arkansas. And I want properties between 10 grand and 100 grand, 10 grand and 200 grand, whatever your specifications are. Put that in there. Bada bing, bada boom. You'll start finding stuff that kind of fits within your wheelhouse. And then you'll take those, move them over to Redfin, and start sussing out the actual demand metrics, right? You're not going to get good demand metrics on land.com, but it's a great way to put in your parameters and it'll show you, right? You can go look at under contract or sold and say, okay, which one's got both or most of each one or most of both, whatever you want to do. And that will start getting you orientated in the right direction. You don't have to, frankly. It's not mandatory. You could even just go pull a county list for a state. You can say, show me every county in California and start just banging that out on Redfin. That's fine too. But I think LandWatch or land.com kind of helps fast track that process. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Market selection is a pain in the butt. That's why we created the Leah market selection platforms, because market selection is so important and it's so annoying. It's so annoying. You got to go through so many data sets to find this stuff, to find the good stuff, right? And the good stuff is kind of make or break in your business. So landinvestor.co/market, if you guys want to see the platform that we built that essentially does this. Okay, cool. So let's say we found a market that has the criteria that we want. 15% sell-through rate, or they're above, not too much supply, not too little supply. And it's got the kinds of properties that we want to build our business on. One thing that I want you guys to think about, it's easier to go after higher end properties. Now, of course, there's limitations, right? Going after $1 million properties for your first deal, probably not the best idea. Those are typically deals that are hard to flip to. You need some kind of value add strategy. But I see a lot of people come into this game with limiting beliefs and they say, well, I'm new, so I should go after small deals because I'm a small time investor. I'm a new investor. No, 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 no. Go after bigger deals. Go after deals that can actually move the needle in your life. I spent so long buying these little peon deals. I was buying for $1,000 and selling for $3,000. And the percentage return is really good on those deals, but they just don't really move the needle in your life. And frankly, they take the same amount of work, if not more work. So the way I think about it is if you're going to go after $50,000 properties, understand in most cases, that deal will make you 25 grand, right? We're typically doubling our money as a bare minimum on most of our deals. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes way more. But think about it like that. What is the list price range you want to take? Chop it in half and say that's probably how much you're going to make. So if you're going after $5,000 deals, you're probably going to make $2,500 or a little bit more. You're going after $100,000 deals, you probably make 50 grand, 40 grand, 60 grand, somewhere in there. So just a really cool way to kind of do back of napkin math and say, hey, I want to make 20 grand per deal. I want a low volume business model. So you can kind of reverse engineer the price points you should be going after. My recommendation to you is go up market. It's a little bit easier. There's less competition. The deals just are more meaningful, right? There's limitations to this. And of course, there's an inverse relationship to how much marketing it takes. And like, look there's pros and cons to every category of this business. But I see so many new land investors who are playing the game small. Just play bigger, right? You get a great deal. I mean, I funded a deal today that's hundreds of thousands. I funded a deal last week that's 100,000. Like, these deals can be big. If it's a good deal, the money's out there. All right. So Redfin to select markets. Now, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go find homogeneous pricing. Homogeneous pricing. I'd be saying, Sumner, what in God's name is homogeneous? Is that an insult? No, it's not. Essentially, what we're saying is we're looking for areas where there's commonalities in pricing. Look, there's a lot of different things that can drive commonalities in pricing. As a general rule of thumb, if you want to have a higher likelihood of finding areas where pricing is consistent, Two things to think about: topography, right? So ideally in that area that we're looking in, ideally topography is relatively similar. I always use this example, but think about San Diego County. It's a hard freaking county to price out. And why is that? Well, you've got the Pacific Ocean in the west, you've got cities, suburbs, mountain range, desert. So if I wanted to go price that whole county, I'm SOL. There's too much variation there topographically to account for. And so, if I'm looking at a 100-mile radius or a 50-mile radius, ideally within that little radius, pricing or topography is pretty consistent. That's typically going to lend to pretty consistent pricing. Now, when I say topography, in this case, I'm talking about cities, rivers, mountains, lakes, valleys, all of it. And maybe that's not the technical definition of topography. I don't know if they would consider cities topography, but in Sumner's language, we do. Okay. So when you just look at a visual representation of a map, hopefully throughout that map, it's consistent. And sometimes you'll find a county where it's like, it's all flat. It's all farmland. There's no city. There's no major interstate. There's no mountains. There's no this. There's no that. And in that event, you might be able to price out large chunks of the county. It's rare though, right? I'm giving away all the goods. There's three main things I like to think about for pricing strategies, okay? There's a lot of ways to price out there. I'm not going to cover all of them. What I like to think about is like, what's the most bang for my buck? Okay? Think like Pareto's principle. I want to do the least amount of work and get the most upside. That's how I like to think about business, AKA like leverage, right? So what can we do? Well, if you have a market, you can find subdivisions. Subdivisions typically are going to be consistent in price. We had a Leah member that made well over 400K his first year just from subdivisions. Another Leah member that made well over 300K in their first year just from going after subdivisions, right? That's it, nothing else. Subdivisions typically are going to be homogenous, similar features of the property, similar size of the properties. Conditions are going to remain pretty constant. You can do acreage ranges. So if it's a county, let's say it's homogenous throughout with topography, pricing is probably homogenous too. Now you're gonna have a really hard time pricing out the 1/4 acre to 1,000 acres, but maybe we can chunk it down and price out the 5 to 10s, the 10s to 15s, the 15s to 20s, on and on and on again. All right, this is one of my favorite strategies. What we do for most of our mailers. The third option you could do is a polygon. So you look at a county and you say, hey, there's a valley up here, there's a mountain range here, and there's another valley here. So maybe we draw a polygon around the northern valley, the southern valley, then a separate polygon for the mountain range. Now we're breaking it up by topography. And that's typically going to lend to consistent pricing. Now the truth is some of these strategies will overlap. Maybe you use a polygon with acreage ranges, and maybe you do that inside of a subdivision. Who knows, right? All we're trying to account for is, can we reasonably create a blind offer to send out to these people? If you guys don't know, the way we're going to get deals and make you your first 10 grand is we're going to send out letters to owners with an offer and a purchase agreement. And so to create an offer, we need to be within the realm of having some kind of possibility of pricing it out. What I see a lot of new land investors doing is that they go take a whole entire county and they say, I'm going to price out everything. And then they wonder why they get terrible results, right? When we're creating offers for sellers, the goal is not perfection. The goal is just to be in the realm of being reasonable for both parties, okay? Really, price and a blind offer is just a way to pre-qualify the seller. So you as a new land investor don't have to filter through hundreds of unqualified sellers. So we're not looking for perfection. Right? The vast majority of our offers to owners get renegotiated. But we can use price as a way to discern who's serious and who's not. Because the who's not probably isn't going to call us up if they don't like that offer. But the people that do like the offer and call us, we know we're probably in the realm of being reasonable. If we have to renegotiate a little bit, that's okay. So finding homogeneous pricing, look at that's going to start on Redfin. You're going to start on Redfin by kind of breaking it down. Can I figure out some way to find homogeneous pricing? Two cool things to note here. On Redfin, you guys can download the CSV file. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a download all. You can download those comps if you want, or you can use the Pebble Google Chrome plugin. It's called the Pebble Pricer. This thing's bad to the bone. It'll instantly calculate median price, average, show you all the comps. Really, really cool. Okay. Now, the thing about pricing is that land is all like prices are all over the place in land, right? That's why we have an opportunity here, is because it's so inefficient. But we also have to have some level of discretion. I always tell people this is both an art and a science. So the science side is we quantify prices and start drawing averages or medians and all that stuff. Okay. We're thinking in a very quantitative fashion. But then there's like a qualitative approach to it, which is more of the art that's going through and saying, you know, that comp, that's an outlier. Let's remove it. Hey, that comp, that's an outlier. Let's remove it. What we got to think about is the vast majority of the deals that we're going to go after and buy. I always tell people they're not going to be the best. They're not going to be the worst. They're going to be like right in the middle of the market. They're typically not going to buy the landlocked hunk of junk. They're also probably not going to buy the property that has all of the amenities on it, all of the improvements. It happens, but it's rare. So we're not going to make our pricing off the high end or pricing off the low end. Okay. One of the things that you guys can do if you want to take this kind of strategy to the next logical conclusion is when you're downloading your data from DataTree, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, you guys can actually remove the low end of the assessed value and the high end of the assessed value. You don't have to, but again, that's going to put you more in line with the properties that are kind of right in the middle, which is really what we're going to base our pricing off of. So you're going to find homogeneous pricing on Redfin. You're going to take whatever you've built out. Hey, I found this subdivision. Cool. Write it down. Then you're going to go take it over into a platform called DataTree. Okay. DataTree is where we're actually going to download the ownership information. So let me write this here. We're going to call this DataTree. Okay. So we got to think about it. This is how we select our markets. This is how we find pricing for areas that we can price out. And then in DataTree is where we actually go and download the ownership information, right? I can't go and market to a seller unless I know what property they own, the property details, and where they live and what their address is and their name is and all that stuff, and their mailing address, right? Because we got to go send them a letter about their property. So DataTree is a database that's going to give you all that information. It's also a way to do due diligence. So it's a kind of a two-end tool, right? You can use it for mapping properties, running comps, doing due diligence on properties, and we're also going to get all of our ownership information from there. If you guys want discounted access to DataTree, you guys can go down below in the description. Okay, I'm just looking at my notes here. So whatever work you did here, you're going to carry over to DataTree. So if you drew a polygon on Redfin, cool, go over into DataTree, draw that same polygon, and download that information. Now, obviously, a platform like DataTree is going to give you everything. Houses, apartment buildings, land, all of it. We're just going after land. So just put in your filters for land. And whatever filters you're using on Redfin, carry those filters over, okay? So now we're going to go over to download data. So at this point, you're probably saying, all right, Sumner, how much money have I spent in this process, right? I'm on a budget, trying to make my first 10 grand. How much have I spent? Redfin, free. Finding homogeneous pricing, obviously free. The Pebble plugin, also free. DataTree, this is the one thing that's going to have cost, okay? You can get it with the discount. You guys can get a DataTree plan, I think, for $99 a month. No contract, none of that stuff. With that plan, you're going to get a set portion of essentially free data. The $99 goes to whatever, 1,000 records a month, 2,000 records a month, whatever the plan is. And then anything over that, you're going to have an a la carte price. Let's just say you're going to pay 3 cents to 8 cents per record. It just depends on what plan you're on, okay? And usually every single plan is going to come with some kind of preset amount of data that refreshes every month. I'm going to tell you guys exactly how much data we're going to need to pull in this challenge to hit this number, and we'll go through cost, okay? All right, so now we downloaded the data from DataTree, and you put in your filters, right? Hey, remove duplicate owners, or I want to remove out-of-state owners. I want to do all this stuff. You guys can absolutely do that. You know, at this point in my business, and for most of like the more seasoned Leah members, they typically don't remove that many pieces from the data. You know, if it's a good market, we really want all the data in that market we can get, because there's just not there's not that many good markets out there, and there's not much good data. So I'm not a fan of like whittling down the list too much, but if I was starting on a budget, I'm probably going to go after the out-of-state owners or out-of-county owners, and I would probably remove the people that just bought land. Right? Look at with the new buyers of land, there will be motivated sellers in there, but they're few and far between. So maybe you kick your filters back 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So that last sale date is however many years prior. Because what do we think about, right? If someone just bought land last week, are they going to be more motivated than someone that just bought land 10 years ago? Probably the person 10 years ago, probably, but not always. We buy land from people that just bought land or just inherited land, or something happened where now they're the current owner. So you're going to download that data. That's going to download as a CSV file, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to create offers. So these are the offers that are actually going to go inside our letter, okay? So you download that data, you bring it into your Google Drive or wherever you're going to store it. And then we go and create our little offers tab. We're going to create, okay, offer, boom. Nothing's going to be in that tab. And this is when we're going to go back to this homogeneous pricing standpoint, okay? Let's just say hypothetically in this example, we're doing 5-acre properties, okay? And we determined, we removed the outliers, we looked at the median, we looked at the average, and we determined that 5 acres traded about $10,000 an acre. So 5 acres worth 50 grand on market, right? That's kind of our expectation of what we think we can sell the thing for. So we're going to go and create offers. Now, because mostly what we do here is what we call a mid-market strategy. We don't go after the most expensive or the cheapest. If you're going after cheaper properties, there's more inefficiency in those markets. So, and we buy cheap properties all the time where we make 600, 800, 1,000%. We made 2,000% on some of those cheaper properties. You're not going to see those same returns on the bigger properties, but the bigger properties, again, take the same amount of time and there's more cash in between. There's more spread in between as a dollar amount. I just think it's a better strategy, right? But if we're going after these bigger properties, we can't be super aggressive with our offers. I see people all the time like, Sumner, I sent out mail and it didn't work. And I said, cool, well, what happened? They're like, well, I offered everyone 20% of retail. Okay, there will be some people out there that will sell at 20% of retail, but boy, are they few and far between. So most of the offers that we're going to create are going to be somewhere between 40 and 60% of retail value, okay? So that means in this example, for the 5 acres, we're making an offer somewhere around $4,000 to $6,000 an acre. Now, this does not mean this is the price that we do the deal at, okay? That's just the price that starts the conversation. We might end up buying this deal at 30% of retail value. And you might say, well, Summer, how could that happen? Well, if you have a good acquisition process and the seller reaches out to you and the seller says, hey, Sumner, look it, I need to sell right now. I need like 30 grand. I've got X, Y, and Z coming up in my life. So now we're creating an offer based off of the seller's problems, not the property's value. Now, of course, we need to still have some context on what the property is worth. But the problem I see new land investors doing is every single offer they create is just around the property's value. That's fine if you're creating offer letters because that's the only thing we can account for. But when you have a seller on the phone with you, you've got to understand there's a problem. That's why they reached out to you. So it's your job to suss out what's that problem and what do they want for the property. Now, oftentimes, they're going to want, this number or higher, but in some cases they're going to want way less, right? And so we need to flesh that out. I'm going to grab a sip of water. Hold on. All right, little LaCroix. Hope that they sponsor me. So yeah, guys, when we're creating offers in our letter, it's based off property values. But we don't take that same mindset to actually having conversations with sellers. All right. And one thing to throw in there, here's my mindset. If you guys want to get a little insight into my mind. My mindset is I'd rather be slightly higher on my offer percentage to get more leads in and then negotiate them down, right? I like being 55%, 60, 65%, a little bit above where I want to buy it because I know once I get that lead in my world, and we start, they start thinking about selling that property and spending the money, I can stair step them down to maybe 50% or 45 or 55, right? But if I sent it at 40, let's say hypothetically, maybe I wouldn't have captured that person. It's easier to do a deal when that lead is in your CRM and you're on the phone with them. Why? Because we can build a case. We can negotiate. We can't negotiate when our offer letter goes out, right? They're just talking to themselves in a piece of paper. So I'd rather be a little higher, capture more leads, and then start working them, right? Now, the problem if you went like and did neutral letters, let's say, because you could be saying, well, Sumner, that logic tells me just get as many leads as possible, send out as many neutral letters as possible. And there may be truth to that, but you're a solo operator with no team. You can't do that. It's too much work. You won't know how to suss out who's serious and who's not. You'll just spin your wheels. I would rather you have 10 qualified leads in your pipeline that you work consistently than 100 leads and you don't know who the heck's qualified. Because as one person, you're not going to be able to do all that work, right? So we want to let the offer letter do the heavy lifting to pre-qualify, and then we work them. Okay. Next thing, number 6. We're going to go and create Google Voice or Pat Live number. Okay, I'll explain the difference. Or Pat Live. Okay. You could use open phone or other things. They're all fine. Google Voice, I'm pretty sure, is the cheapest. Don't make the mistake I made. Okay. When I first got into this business, I put my personal cell phone on every piece of marketing that went out. I still get hundreds of calls a week from random ass people. It's annoying. I don't pick them up. I should have never have done that. I was so hungry and so aggressive that I said, screw it. They can call me directly, anytime, any hour. Don't do that. Okay. So create either a Google Voice or an open phone account or something that you can have as like a VoIP service where it's a number that will still ring your phone, but they don't have your personal number. Okay. If you guys want to get extra fancy, you can use Pat Live. So Google Voice, I don't know, $5, $10. I mean, something cheap. Pat Live is an amazing, amazing service. Pat Live is an answering service. So there's an army of people here in the US, not overseas, that will take that initial call. What you'll notice is when you start sending out marketing, you're going to get people that want to scream at you, call you stupid, call you a loser. And then you're going to have people that are ready to sell right now. Mentally, for your own psychology, it's really tough to deal with that. I've taken hundreds or maybe thousands of these phone calls. It wears on you after a while, right? Beyond just the psychological side of things too, I hate reactive work. I don't do anything that's reactive. I hate it. Anything in my business that's reactive, I've delegated, right? I've got people that answer all of my emails, people that answer all of my calls. I hate that stuff because my gift to the world is being proactive. I'm a thinker. I'm a big thinker. I like thinking through complex problems and thinking about solutions. And if I'm deep in that flow and I'm getting a bunch of phone calls from random people, I hate that, right? So if you can afford it, for about $300 a month, you can create a Pat Live account. There's a discount down below for you guys. You create that account. They're super sweet, and we get compliments on them all the time. They answer that call. They go through our script, and then they import that information to our CRM. And now you get to be proactive. You get to go proactively underwrite the deal, look at the lead, and then call them back on your own terms, right? That's also a much better conversation that you're going to have because you're not getting caught with your pants down, right? I've had situations where I'm out at a date with my girlfriend, and a seller calls me, and they're like, I want the offer right now. What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't even know what property you're talking about, right? And so you have to roll with the punches, and it's just bad. And I've ruined deals because of that. So I was so unprepared. But the truth is, I can't sit around my phone all day long, right? Also, the truth is, you're not going to find a VA that works 24/7, nights, weekends, holidays, every hour of the day that will always answer the phone for $300 a month. You won't even find that for a couple $1,000 a month. And these people are all US based. It's a ridiculous proposition. I frankly don't know how they do it. Everyone that signs up also gets access to our script that we use. All right, another LaCroix break. Look at this is a nice to have. It's not a need to have, right? Once you start scaling your marketing and you're doing 10,000 letters a month consistently, all right, Pat Live is a need to have. This is one thing that's really important, guys. Pat Live is not your acquisition manager, okay? They're not going to negotiate deals. They're not going to do any of that. They're going to go through a preset script that we've created to get the necessary information, and they'll put that inside your CRM. If you guys are using the Leah Pebble setup, you guys also, there's a form in there that will automatically import the lead into the CRM too, which is nice. Okay, next. Number 7, create offer letter. Okay, create offer letter. So we've gone through, we found the market, we found the pricing, we downloaded the data, we put in our offers into our spreadsheet. Now we need to create an offer letter. So most of our offer letters are going to be 2 pages, okay? The front page is going to be an intro. Hi, I'm Sumner. I buy land, yada, yada, yada. You should sell to me because of all these reasons. The second page is going to have a purchase agreement, okay? And that purchase agreement is not usually the one that we're going to get the deal done with. It's posturing. Sometimes they'll sign and we'll do that deal. But more times not, they sign, they've committed, and we might send a new purchase agreement, update terms if we have to, or just create a better purchase agreement. You have to imagine that little 1-page purchase agreement is good, but it's not great. I mean, some purchase agreements are 10 pages long or more. So it's just kind of a simpler boilerplate, right? But what you're telling the seller is, hey, I mean business. I'm so confident in buying your property. Boom, here's a purchase agreement. The reason that this is valuable is that sellers and land sell for convenience, right? The problem with land is most owners don't even know what the property's worth. And they don't want to go use a realtor and sit on the market for months or for years and haggle and go back and forth and pay realtor commissions. Most of them want the easy button, okay? And so we're creating this easy button by having this offer that comes in with an offer price and an offer letter. And we're saying, yo, let's rock and roll. Just make this in a Google Doc, right? Super simple. It does not have to be the best thing ever. One thing that you will need to do is create what's called merge tags on here. So a merge tag is going to look like this. I'll write it down here. So it's going to be this little arrow. Boom. So what it's going to say is like, hey, this is the price. And then in your data set, it'll just import in that price, right? Same thing. You can put merge tag owner's name. Cool. It'll carry over the owner's name. The mail house will do all of that work for you. And so that allows us to create offer letters that are unique to the seller. They're bespoke to them, right? I still get letters from people, from land investors. It's like, hey, friends, I want to buy your property in Apache County. No price, no APN, no nothing, not even my own name. I'm like, you didn't even take the time to create something that's bespoke to me, and that's stupid because it doesn't cost you anything more to do. For all of our mailing, we use a service called Rocket Print and Mail. Again, that's down below. Best in the game, cheapest in the game, best customer service. They work with tons of land investors. They know the business. They'll do all of that for you as long as you guys add in the merge tag. Okay. All right. What's next? 8, mail, right? So now you're going to go take your offer letter. You're going to take your data set, the CSV file, put that in an email or upload it to Rocket Print Mail. And in about a day or two, they'll create a proof. So you'll just proofread it and say, yep, this looks good. And then a couple days later, they'll mail it out. Typically, this is where it becomes important. If the day I send out my mailer to Rocket Print and Mail, expect about 6 to 8 weeks before you start getting reliable results. I see so many people that prejudge their mailer 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in. Oh, some of my mailer's not working. No, you just haven't given it enough time, right? Because it's going to take a week for them to print and mail out, another 2 to 3 weeks for it to actually get to the seller. And not everyone opens up their mail at the same time, or people open up their mail, but they don't call immediately. They think about it, right? What's going to happen with all of your guys' campaigns is the worst leads are going to come in first. They're going to get the crazy people first. This is what happens. People give it a few weeks. They get all these angry calls and say, somehow my mailer didn't work. No, you just didn't give it enough time, right? And the crazy people always call first. Kind of a weird insight into human psychology to think about the fact that there's people out in the world that are waiting for something to piss them off. They're just all day, what can I find that's going to make me mad? And this comes along and they're pissed, right? And so you expect the worst ones are going to come initially. A couple of weeks ago, I got an email from a gentleman who wanted to sell me his property from when I sent a letter to him like 2.5 years ago. So the deals don't come overnight, right? It takes time for the deals to come in. And that's why if you're trying to do this in 12 weeks, boy, you better get your mailer out like the next week or two, right? If you really want to go make 10 grand in 90 days, you need to get that campaign out, because a lot of that time is going to be the mail going out and the mail seasoning with the sellers and then working the leads and negotiating. Like, this stuff all takes time. The seeds that I plant today in my business, like the work I do today in my business, typically will pay me 6 months from now. We talk about cash actually being in my bank account, probably about 6 months. Because I got to have 8 weeks the letters to go out, a couple weeks to negotiate the deals, a couple weeks to close on the property, a couple weeks to list the property and sell it, a couple weeks to close on the property again, and then money comes back in my bank account. So a lot of you guys just have your timeline so screwed up. It takes time in this business. God dang, just be patient, would you? Okay, so you're going to send your mail out to Rocket Print and Mail. Now, that's it, right? So what was our cost? Our cost was mailing. Our cost was Pat Live or Google Voice. Our cost was data tree. You're in for a couple $100. Now, I might be saying, Sumner, cool, this is helpful, but exactly how much mail do I send out to go make $10,000 plus? And frankly, $10,000 is on the low end. Here's how much you're going to send out. You're going to send out 5,000 mailers, okay? So you might be saying, Sumner, why 5,000 mailers? It seems oddly specific. The reason you're going to do 5,000 mailers is if we look at LEA members, typically it's about, if you're moderate, about 2,000 letters per deal. If you're really good, like some of our more seasoned people, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700. That's both because they're good at marketing and because they're good at acquisitions. They're good at the marketing and the sales, so they can convert more. If you're brand spanking new and you're pretty crappy, it could be 2,500 to 5,000 letters to get a deal. But for most LEA members, their average deal is going to make them about 20 grand. Now, there's going to be some people in the comments that said, Sumner, well, I sent out 5,000 mailers or 10,000 mailers and I didn't get a deal. There's two things happening there. One, there might not be enough time, right? Typically, it only takes one deal from a campaign to make it profitable. And two, you need a large enough sample size, right? I've sent out 10,000 mailers before and gotten no deals, right? But if we zoom out and look at it from a macro perspective, if you stay in this game long enough and you mail for a year, let's say, you'll see these numbers ring true. So this 5,000 mailers is creating a nice little buffer for you to be bad, right? For you to not do well, for you to be bad at acquisitions, bad at marketing, bad at picking the markets. But if there's enough action here, we can overcome our shittiness. And eventually we'll keep on taking action and we'll improve. And then this number will come down, right? You guys got to think about it like this. How do I get better at this? Well, yeah, you could go through education. That stuff's important. But even education can't solve for the fact that quality comes from quantity. You want to get better at something? Don't focus on quality. Focus on quantity. Get more reps in, and quantity will inform quality, okay? You guys have an opportunity to make $250,000 to $500,000 your first year. And we've got folks in Leah that make 7 figures their second year. What an insane business model to have that as a possibility. But you can't get away from the fact that you're going to suck initially. You're going to have mailers that bomb, that things don't work. You have to accept that. That's a small price to pay for the amount of upside in this business. I don't know where these expectations come from, where people think that they're going to be good off the rip. They're going to make a ton of money off the rip. It happens. But more times than not, it takes more quantity to become better, all right? It took me 2 years of eating shit in this business to even take $1 away from my business, to even figure out what the heck I was doing. And I take a lot of action. I would argue that I take more action than pretty much anyone here. I throw stuff at the wall nonstop. So I'm talking about 2 years, 24 months of just aggressively throwing stuff at the wall just to get decent enough to start taking money from my business. Pat the Fusta. So you like mail and not text. I like both, but as a new land investor, don't text. As a new land investor, mail. Texting requires a team, and texting has way more hidden costs than you realize. Okay. So texting is it's a great way to communicate. Well, on balance, it is going to be cheaper than direct mail. But once you start opening up those texts, you got to be by your computer 24/7 to respond. And you've got to have a good acquisition process, because those leads that come from texting are typically not going to be as qualified as mail. Mail has way more trust associated with it. So we get less leads. We pay a little more for those leads, but they're going to be much easier to work. I've never seen a new land investor that's texting by themselves with no team that's doing well. Every time. And I talk to these people all the time. I get like one deal every 6 months, but they're sending out like 10,000 texts a month. I send out 10,000 texts a month, and I get like 2 to 3 deals, right? But I have the team, the process around it. Always start with direct mail. Direct mail is proactive marketing. Texting is reactive marketing, right? A lot of you guys have been fooled because texting is all hot and cool. And on the surface, texting looks cheap. No, all I need is like, launch control subscription. Way more hidden costs behind that, right? And so, yes, I love texting, but I would highly advise for you to stay away until you start mastering direct mail and you start building a team, right? You get an acquisition manager, then eventually get a texting manager, and then start stacking that on. We've had Leah members that have added texting into their business like in 4 to 6 months. It's not like you have to wait forever, but you need the infrastructure to handle it. Okay, so 5,000 mailers. What is this going to cost you guys? When we factor in the cost of data, we factor in the cost of mail. I mean, if I want to be really conservative, and this is a very conservative number, we're going to say this is going to cost you $3,000. Okay, $3,000. Now, I'm going to be saying, Sumner, I spent $3,000 to make 10 grand. That sounds kind of shitty. Well, you might make way more than 10 grand. But again, what business model can you come in with no experience and with $3,000 and turn it into 10,000 plus? There's very few. And you'll get to the point. I mean, I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars from a couple hundred mailers before, right? You'll get better at that process. You'll get better at picking markets, pricing markets, working sellers, and that ratio will continue to improve, right? The typical that we see for Leah members is about a 10x ROAS. What's ROAS? Return on ad spend. So that means this is my ad spend, $3,000. Most Leah members see 10x. So that turns into $30,000. Cool, right? We got some Leah members that are at 15x, right? So that number will continue to improve. But the fact that you guys can come in this, waltz into this business with very little experience, need very little tools, and 3x your money is pretty insane, right? That's the playbook, guys. That's it. Like, if you guys can't figure this part out on your own, I don't know what to tell you. Frankly, I don't. This is it. This is it. This is not going to build you a land business, but this will get cash in the door, right? More land investors need this, right? More land investors need to know how to just become a deal maker, go get a deal or two, and then you can start thinking about building a land business, taking that to the next level. That's really why we created Leah. Let's turn these kind of solo hand-to-hand combat operators that are making 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand in their business, build that into something that's more substantial, it has leverage, and turn that into $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, things like that. This is really it, guys. And we're talking about a very lean stack of tools. You don't even have a CRM yet. You can just store that stuff inside of an Excel sheet if you want. And then over time, you guys can get a CRM and all that jazz. I hope this was helpful, guys. It's kind of a new style of educating, and I think it's pretty fun. We'll call this Whiteboard Fridays, so something like that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to stay for a few minutes and help answer those questions for you guys. You know, one thing that I think about often is the fact that land is currently a blue ocean, right? The land space is still in its infancy. There's a lot of opportunity in this business, right? But opportunity only lasts so long, okay? Business models, they become more saturated, they become more efficient. It becomes harder to get the same results with the same amount of effort. We're still in a place where you can waltz in here with this strategy and make $250,000 plus your first year. So capitalize on that. Stop sitting on the sidelines. Go and do this. Like literally follow this to a T, right? Watch this video over and over and over again because you've got a blue ocean in front of you. And it's a shame how many people I talk to that aren't capitalizing on this opportunity that we have here, right? I would say that we probably have another 10 years or so of land where like the getting is really good, but it'll hit a point where it starts to look like wholesaling and it gets a little more competitive. And look, you can still make money, but the bar gets raised, right? The bar is down here. So right now you guys should be going ape shit over this. You guys should be going all in on this because you've got the potential to change your life in 12 months. It's pretty awesome, right? It's pretty awesome. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this call. This was fun for me. Hope everyone has an amazing Friday and a good weekend. If you guys want to come meet me in person, the Leah coaches, and get in the room with some of the best land investors in the world, landinvestor.co/event. We've got about 25% of the tickets still left here in Las Vegas, October 28th, 29th. It's going to be super fun. It's a 2-day event. For the early birds coming on Friday, we're going to do an early bird hike at 4 p.m. here in Vegas. So yeah, guys, looking forward to it. Looking forward to meeting as many of you guys there as possible. Hope everyone has an amazing weekend. Take action on this, right? Make me happy. Make this so this wasn't all a waste of 47 minutes, right? Do something with this. Change your life. You guys got everything that it takes to do so. I'm rooting for you. I believe in you guys. All right, take care, guys.